Hi everyone, and welcome to our first of Term 3's Wednesday ANZ webinars. Whoops, while I've got another notebook loading in the background. Thank you for joining us. I hope that week 2 or week 3, wherever you are here in Australia, or in fact, wherever you are in the world, you are enjoying the end to a wonderful school day. So today we are looking at embedding the digital and design curriculum in the early years. July 31st, 2019. I can't believe that it is already July. So thank you for joining me for this next half hour. I hope that you get something out of it, and I look forward to connecting with you afterwards. Okay. If you have any questions during our webinar or at the end, please feel free to click the question box here and pop your question down here. Kendall, our amazing lead in marketing here in ANZ, who you will get to know over the next series of webinars, will actually be manning the questions booth and will ask the questions after the webinar. As a reminder, you can get a personalised certificate for your attendance here today of the webinar. If you go to training.smarttech.com and log in, you can go ahead and check the Explore offerings and find our webinar, which will be uploaded by next week. You can forward through the webinar, click the Mark Complete button, and that will then allow you to download your personalised certificate that has your hours for your professional development hours. Today's presenter is me. This is me right here in the background with our main man, Eddie Wu, at our last year's IGC conference, pondering the future of EdTech and how we improve student outcomes through the embedding of digital curriculum and digital technologies in our teaching and learning. So my name is Beck Woolnow. I am a smart educational consultant here in ANZ. I have been a teacher for 13 plus years, was a digital pedagogical coach in both private Catholic and public schools, and I am an Apple, Microsoft and Smart certified educator. If you would like to connect with me or ask me any questions further down the track, my email is rwoolnow@smarttech.com, or if you're on Instagram, my tag is besmartau. Today, our purpose is to see how to utilise SMART to embed the digital and design curriculum into the early years. Our process will be to show the journey of some of our team of early years teachers and how they introduce SMART as a way of embedding the digital and design curriculum into their prep classes. Now, today, because I'm in Victoria, I will use the term prep, but when I talk about prep, I am talking about kindergarten, foundation, reception and prep. So all of our 4s, 5s and possibly 6s in prep. And our payoff is hopefully that you'll walk away with some ideas that you can use in your classroom. Okay, so if you would like to join me, my number is 89855. You can go to your browser and type in hellosmart.com and join my class ID at 98955. Don't stress, if you miss the number now, it will pop up in the activities that we're doing a little bit later. So the journey started here with these prep teachers at the start of the year, where they said when we were bringing SMART into the school, please don't give us smart boards. We don't want the tech. We don't want the iPads in here because it is too difficult with preps to get them to sign in and use the technology. And so what we thought we'd do is go very slowly. And I asked them what their biggest issue was to date. So what they said was basically their biggest issue was drop-off time. So separation anxiety with their little preps when mum and dad or grandma and grandpa or their significant other drop them off to school. The teachers were then having to spend a lot of time managing their social and emotional wellbeing without teaching. And so what I said was, right, so we're going to try and fix that problem. So we set up 3 iPads, join them at hellosmart.com, save that as an app on the iPad and set it up at the front ready to go. Now, if you're familiar with our software, you'll know Shout It Out is a fantastic resource to have students share their content to the board so that their peers can also see, the teacher can see, and we can all give feedback. Now, what we used was the images, and I gave them 2 per go, and we showed their names. And what we said was, I am here and this is who bought me. So our little friends popped into the classroom, arrived very early. And the rule was they had to walk up to the iPads that were set up. 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, and 4-year-olds are extremely well versed in taking selfies. And so that's all they had to do was take a photo of I am here and send it to the board. And this is who bought me. So they took a photo of the adult that dropped them off. The rule was once the photos came to the board that they had to put the iPad down, give whoever dropped them off a huge cuddle, and then walk over to the board and match their faces. So they matched their I am here face to this is who bought me. Now, if you'd like to join me, you can send your selfie to the board and I can show you exactly what we did. But what they did was that then allowed their students to already be disconnected from the adult that dropped them off. So they were no longer having to spend all of their time deviating or distracting the student to help them manage the separation. The students were already separating themselves because they were coming up to the board and matching their I am here, this is who bought me pictures. And so it allowed those teachers to really capitalize on that effective teaching time in the morning, where they would have otherwise spent their time managing the social and emotional well-being of their students. So that was the first step. And it was a huge, thanks, Ms. Higgins, for joining me. It was a huge, huge change in the morning routine for these teachers. No longer were they dealing with social and emotional issues. They were actually getting straight into the teaching and learning, which was really, really effective. And so our teachers started to see the benefits of embedding this digital curriculum. Now, as part of this activity, what they were doing, what the students didn't know that they were doing, and the teachers didn't know what they were doing, was they were actually covering some of the digital curriculum. So the students were actually capturing data, which is one of the descriptors in our digital curriculum. And they were capturing data and they were sharing data. So they were organizing their data. And so they were covering parts of the digital curriculum just by doing their role. So then I set the challenge for the teachers to create their own role. And this was one of the roles that they had created. So what they had to do was in the morning, after they'd learned how to send their photos to the board, the students would then have to come up and join their first name with their last name. And when they won, they would play a little riff and get a little music. And so they were capturing the role in that way. From there, our teachers started doing what we called spot lessons. So they were choosing lessons that they could substitute or modify. So on the SAMA model, we were looking at where we could utilize technology to substitute and modify, just to start this process of embedding the digital and design curriculum through digital technologies in the classroom. And so the teachers were starting to use things like this. So talking about revealing emotions and feelings. This then transferred into how are you feeling today? How is your feeling? So our preps or our kindergartners were doing a selfie check-in. They were either using a selfie photo that showed their emotion of how they were feeling today, or they used an emoji that showed how they felt about a particular focus that they had been doing. And that allowed teachers to manage the social and emotional well-being, but then also allowed teachers to reflect on the students' feelings about that day and really touch base with their students. This was one of my favorite lessons that I have ever done with preps, and feel free, I'm going to start it while I explain it, so feel free to join. You have to go and find 2D shapes, a circle, a square, and a triangle. And so if you have joined me, please feel free to send some photos to the board. But as I explained, so hellosmart.com 98955, it's up here if you would like to see it. Now, our preppies had to take their iPads in pairs and we walked around the school. And with their iPads, before we went out, we had huge discussions about how to be safe with our digital technology. Another one of our digital curriculums. And in my presentation today, you'll find a little widget that has digital curriculum links on some of the activities. So we talked about how to walk around safely with our iPads, how to use our iPads safely, and so on and so forth. And off they went around looking for a 2D shape hunt around the school. And when we got back, we had all of our students who had their collection, their captured data. And now we had to organize our data. So we talked about the in circle and how it made a soft sound, and in square and in triangle. And together in pairs, they categorized their data, or they categorized their images. And we had lots of circles, squares, and triangles. A little friend called Mia sent up a picture of her friend's eye. Now, I apologise for my poor drawings here. And we had, as it is always in prep, there was huge uproar and big discussions about whether that was actually a circle or not. In the end, we decided it was more like a football shape. And that it was probably closer to an ellipsis than a circle. And Mia, my friend, jumped up out of her seat and said, "Mrs. Woolnough, I did not take a photo of my friend's eye. I took a photo of the coloured bit in the eye." And all of our little preppies said, "Oh, secret shapes." And so we had to start our activity all over again. So our friends could find shapes within shapes within shapes. And it was a wonderful inquiry-based activity that occurred without me realizing it and without me planning it, just because I gave Mia a voice. And that is the most important thing when improving student outcomes, is student voice. They want to be a part of the knowledge building. And what Mia did was, if I took this to a paper-based activity and handed out a sheet and said, "Draw me 2D shapes, circles, squares, and triangles," and Mia drew an eye, I would probably, if I was a nice teacher, give her half a mark. But because I allowed Mia to give us her knowledge and share her knowledge and give feedback, and I gave feedback, and she was a part of the knowledge building, she was able to show me that she was actually higher order thinking. But not only that, but she pulled every single one of those prep students up to her level of thinking. And then for the next 2 weeks, all they wanted to do was show me the shapes within shapes within shapes that they had found. So moving on from that one was another lesson that we did, where we had to start looking at materials. So we started looking at the types of materials in the design curriculum that were good for weather. And a part of this unit was where they had to design a piece of clothing for a certain part of the weather. So to start with, we were starting to learn all about the different types of things we would wear when it was sunny and cold. Now we'll start this if you want to play it on your devices. I can see that we've got a few friends in. Thanks, Shannon, Caroline, Sandra, Miss Higgins, Sarah, and Layla. So that's starting for you right now. But what they were doing was they were deciding whether they would wear the swimsuit in cold or the swimsuit in sunny. Now we played this as a whole class, and then I pushed it to their devices simply by pressing this iPad button and pressing start. So it's just connecting now. I think because we're running the Wi-Fi, my activation is coming a little bit slow because of my Wi-Fi connection. But it should be showing up on your screens now. So what you can see is that you're able to actually play the activities individually, but then also we can play them on the board and not affect each other. So we're implementing just these sort of substitution modifications into our teaching and learning. From there, we played a game called What Would You Wear? And we chose to use the dice here to tell what the weather was going to be. And we had a dress up box, and our friends could dress up in the clothes that they would wear when it was sunny and send their photo. Their partner would take a photo and send their photos to the shouted out screen. Now, I'm not going to ask you to send me a photo of what you're wearing today. I'm sure you know appropriate clothing for the right weather, but our little friends sent photos of themselves in raincoats, in t-shirts and sunnies and a hat when it was sunny, and we were able to give them instantaneous feedback on their choices, and they were able to talk about the different types of materials that they chose and why they chose these types of materials. Water resistant, it's light and airy, so it's not heavy, it's very woolly and warm, and they got to talk about those design elements and their design choices, which was fantastic. Now, this is an SSP match 'em up, and I'll show you quickly how to build a game. So our teachers were learning how to slowly implement digital technologies into their teaching and learning across the curriculum, because if you're purchasing technology and it's not translating across all of your curriculum areas and it's not scaling from prep all the way to year 12, then you really need to look at the type of investment you're making in that technology. And that's why we loved the Smart Learning Suite software and the boards as well, because they translated across curriculum and also from preps to year 12s. So what our teachers were doing was slowly learning how to implement this. Now, the next one that we looked at was saving our content so that we did not have to continually load content into the games that were already there. So time saving, because teacher outcomes, improving teacher outcomes is just as important as improving student outcomes as well. Now, this school does SSP, and so what we did was we were doing activities where we saved our list. Now, if you want to save lists, all you do is type in your content and press save, or you come into your manage content area where you can create new matched pairs, tests, single lists, and student lists, which is fantastic. So today I've just made two. I've done one that we did sort of towards the end of term 2, and then this one here we used in term 1 when they were getting familiar with these sounds. And so what I did was I chose my theme. Let's go with a flower one this time, and then within a couple of minutes, I've now created a game that I can push out to my student devices. Now, at the moment, you're probably looking at the sunny cold sort them if you have joined my class. If I click start here, it's actually going to buffer you out of that activity and push you into this one without you having to do anything. And now my students can play these games. So really giving our teachers back their time, but also enhancing these lessons, both whole class and then seamlessly moving to individual or paired or small grouped activities without the teachers having to do a whole heap of extra work and without you having to compete against the device that's in the classroom. So really enhancing the teaching and learning environment. Okay, this is where we started to look at trying to, rather than doing hotspots or spot lessons, we started looking at doing sort of units of work and building on our skills. So in this one, we started talking about digital narratives, and the students were using all of these activities to feed the caterpillar, and then click the caterpillar, and all of a sudden the caterpillar was really big. And we just used that by layering effect, and they retold the very hungry caterpillar. This one is fantastic for recognizing and exploring patterns in data and representing data as pictures and symbols. So simply just using a table. Now, I have my student pictures over here. I don't have them at the moment because you can see that I've interchange them with my monsters just for privacy reasons. So my class of monsters are here today. So you can see my little pictures. So the idea of this is moving from desk to floor after reading the book and the students retelling the story. We would then come and pick our favorite food from the hungry caterpillar. So the little so my little friends would come and find their picture, which I had infinitely cloned. And to do that, all you do is have the picture and press infinite clone. And now every time you pull a picture of them, it will duplicate it. So all they had to do was come and find a picture of themselves and pop it on their favorite food. Now, a few of them said that they had lots of different favorite foods. So I said, that's fine. You can choose you can have one or two. And slowly but surely, you can see that they would have started building a chart or a database chart, a column graph. And we started talking about how many people's favorite food was strawberries, how many people's favorite foods were ice cream, and so on and so forth. We even took that into healthy, not healthy choices and sometimes foods. So this was a fantastic, easy way to transition our students from the desks to the floor, engaging them in talking about their choices, but then also building a graph that we can then talk about, and then organizing data into a graph, which was fantastic. So embedding the digital curriculum into mathematics by using the digital technology in the classroom. This next activity, so these are a few activities that we had done together or they had built themselves. So we started, as part of this unit, we started doing healthy, not healthy. So that was a follow-on from our activity there, and that is just a super sort. Now, this is where we started using our randomizer sorting hat, where I showed you earlier, you can make a student list. Here's our 1-2K list class. And so we had a sorting hat and we had little friends choose, and now it's Harlow's turn, and Harlow would run out to the front to the board like the price was right, and everybody would cheer, and then Harlow would have her go at sorting what was healthy and what was not healthy. And we could have 2 or 3 students at the board at the same time sorting those foods. So some of us turned it into a race and had teams on either side to see who could do the sometimes food first or the healthy food first, which was fantastic fun. Okay, This was one to showcase the teachers that they didn't actually have to create new content. They could use their PDF. So this was just a simple PDF that they did on the board together. And what they did was they colored the fruits to match the numbers. So they had to do one apple. So they had their friends come up and do the one apple. And then our little friends started to do it at their desks or on their iPads, depending on the teacher and how confident they were. Some of the teachers were very confident and happy to do it in SLSO with a handout, which was great. And some of our teachers weren't quite ready to do that, and so they were happy to do a PDF. So we had digital copies of this activity with our students and also hard copies of this with our students, which was great. This was where our teachers really branched out, and they did this in SLSO. Now, if we get time, I will show you SLSO, but we are quickly running out of time. I do realize we've only got 9 minutes and I haven't quite gotten to the rest of this lesson. But basically, we pushed this into SLSO, turned it into a handout, and our students used this as an assessment. So what they had to do was circle whether that was one caterpillar, 2 acorns, so on and so forth. They screenshot that and shared it to Seesaw, which they were very competent in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly skip down to skip ahead. But essentially, these next couple of games were games that they started giving student voice. It's really important to allow our students to, rather than the teacher be directing at the front, start to push into becoming a facilitator mode. Now, that's really hard in prep, but what we were doing was slowly introducing these activities. So we're building a few games underneath each other and allowing our students, running them from SLSO and turning it to student mode, allowing our students to work through them self-paced and however they would like to organize themselves. So some students chose to do it independently, some students chose to do it as a pair, and some students did it in small groups, just to get them used to working independently as the teacher wandered around. It builds up, and I will give you a copy of this notebook, but it builds up to our term 2, term 3 unit that they are now doing. This was an activity that we had done last year with another school, and so we were starting to implement this into this school. So what we did was we read the Gingerbread Man, and then we embedded the Ginger Man YouTube video so that we could compare and contrast what we liked and what we didn't like between the book and the video. And again, embedding YouTube videos is very simple. It's the puzzle piece, tapping YouTube, searching YouTube. This is a white hat search, so no inappropriate content. When you embed it, it will actually strip away the ad at the front. It will not allow ticket tape ads over the top, and it will not play the YouTube underneath, which is so fantastic. And if you're like me, you use YouTube all the time. These teachers, and unfortunately I won't get time to show you today, but this lesson was run in SLSO. So this is called Choose Your Own Adventure. So we had 5 activities that our students could choose to do at any one time, and they got to choose it to do in the way that they wanted. So they did it in independent, pairs, and small groups. So when they click on the cow, they actually were taken to an activity. You'll notice a little blue button up here that says home. That one takes me back to the home screen. So in this activity, they had to order the story. So they're ordering data and showing us the order of the story. Now, I'm not doing it correctly, but what they had to do, what you could hear in the classroom was lots of discussions about which animal the gingerbread man had come across first, and so on and so forth, and lots of discussions and swapping around. And when they got to the completed activity, they could check their rankings and then they could reorder them. So they could move them around until they got them right. It was really interesting to watch them work together on this one. If we go home and we click our gingerbread man, they actually got to decorate their gingerbread man. So they used different shapes and triangles. They could make them bigger or smaller. And we talked about their gingerbread man. And then they gave their gingerbread man a name. This was a lead up to the final activity. If they clicked on the fox, they got to come to this activity, which was where they had to... they were doing a maths activity, that's right. So we were sabotaging. So we were doing the dots on the gingerbread man versus the number that it represented. And what they were doing, they would bounce out if they were incorrect. So if I got 8, they would bounce away. So they were getting that feedback straight away. So they're able to readjust and improve their student outcomes because I had automated that feedback. Oops, I'm going to pop back. If we clicked on the horse, it took us to another maths problem where they had to count and put 10 buttons on the gingerbread man. Now, this prep class was very, very clever at using Seesaw, and our teachers had spent quite a long time using Seesaw in the classroom where they were taking a photo and uploading to Seesaw. So the students were doing that, and the teachers were using this as an assessment, which was fantastic. The last one was our granny, and this was probably one of my favorite games where we were doing mapping. Now, they grasped this really, really quickly. They had to roll the dice and get a letter and a number, and then they had to find that gingerbread man. So player one got to capture that gingerbread man, and it was who could catch the most gingerbread men. Now, this is a great introduction to mapping, so learning about coordinates. So we coloured the dice, colour coordinated the dice with the letters, and the number dice with the numbers down the bottom, so they knew that this one was found here and this one was found here, and they really did a great job at this. So we said first to catch 10 gingerbread men win. Now, once they had finally done all of those activities and the teacher was wandering around helping them, what they did was they went away and they actually made their own gingerbread man in art. And we talked about the choices that they had made. Once they did that, they took a photo of their gingerbread man, and I had uploaded it here in our My Contents page as a teacher, so you can see student work. My students then came in and pulled their artwork out, and what they did was they actually used the capture tool to capture a copy of the gingerbread man, and they would have done it a lot neater than I did, but what they did was they mapped around their gingerbread man and cut it out. I'm going to save it to our current page here. So what you can do is I'm going to delete that one so you can see this one, and I'm going to make him a little bit smaller. So what they did was they came in here and they set the transparency, and they got rid of the background. So now they're editing their data, which was fantastic. And they picked this up really quickly. We did this in literacy groups, so we had 4 or 5 students at the board doing this at the same time. And what they did with their little artwork was on the next page, I have a little example of what they did. Now, what they did was they actually set up a page where they could retell the gingerbread man. And the way they did that was they actually used their artwork and pulled him over here. And then you can see that they use their microphones to retell the story of the gingerbread man. So what they did was they were talking about the gingerbread man in the oven, and then he popped out and he ran away and met the pig, and so on and so forth. So they had at the end of this a video of their digital narrative, which was fantastic. After that, we split the page, and I said, I want you to draw me an outline of a gingerbread man. And mine always looks like a flower when I do it. Oh, looks like a very big flower. What they did then was they used the capture tool again, and they took a photo of their gingerbread man, and they dragged it, they saved it onto desktop. So I had set this up prior, and they saved it onto desktop, which saves it into a capture tool folder on the desktop. And they dragged that into what we called Cookie Caster. It's a free website that they can go and upload their images, and it will turn it into a vector file that you can download. And they downloaded that. So my teaching aide stood at the board and assisted them in this, but most of the time they did this quite well by themselves. Once that was downloaded, we uploaded it to the Me 3D printing website, or the build flow, and you can do this with any 3D printer that you have. And what they did was, I'm going to unsplit this now, is they actually made gingerbread man just at lunchtime. So they made gingerbread, and then what they did was they 3D printed their gingerbread man cookie cutter out. So they had sent it to the Cookie Caster website, downloaded the vector file, and sent it to our 3D printer. And at lunchtime, it printed the gingerbread man cookie cutters. So they made gingerbread man in the afternoon. They cut it out with their cookie cutter that they had designed. They decorated it, and a lot of them tried to decorate it the same way they had done their art, which was very cute. And by the end of it, they got to take home their artwork, their cookie cutter they had drawn and then 3D printed, their cookie, and their video, which we uploaded to Seesaw. Or you could upload it to your learning management system or Google Classroom if that's what you're using. Now, doing this activity, and this was a build up. Remember, our teachers started with just a role and built up into this. So by doing this, we covered nearly all of the digital curriculum descriptors. But you need to remember that in prep, you're really only covering one or two, because you have from foundation to year 2 to cover all of those digital curriculums. So focusing on capturing data, storing data, sharing data is great for foundation. Remember, you are probably doing most of the digital curriculum already. You just need to recognize that they are happening already in your classroom. I am going to throw it to any questions if we have any. Kendall, I know that Kendall's mic isn't working today, so she might text me through any questions that she has. And if you do have any questions, please pop them up here in the question mark button, and we'll get to them. While Kendall is sending me through the questions, I just want to remind you that you are not alone. These resources, like the one I showed you today, is on our brand new Smart Exchange. You can find that at content.smarttech.com. I'll also make this notebook available to anyone who would like it. We will upload it with the YouTube on our training.smarttech.com, or if you would like a direct copy, please feel free to email me. You can have all of those activities, no dramas at all. Remember that you can get your digital certificate. Head to the Explore offerings on training.smarttech.com, find this webinar, fast forward to the end, click the mark complete, and you will be able to download your certificate. Don't forget, there are other online training and professional development tools which are fantastic. We do have 2 smart certified training events happening in Sydney and in Melbourne, and 1 in Adelaide in term 4. So our Sydney one is happening early August, our Melbourne one is happening mid-August, and our Adelaide one is happening in term 4. So if you are interested in them, please contact us. And lastly, it gives me great pleasure to announce that our registrations are open for our Inspire Greatness Conference. We will put the registration link down the bottom in our YouTube in the comments. We'll also put a link to the Inspire Greatness wrap-up video from 2018. Believe me, it was amazing, and this year we could not be more excited. I cannot wait to announce our keynotes. It's a bit of a secret still, but in a couple of weeks we'll be announcing our keynotes, but they are some big hitters in the educational stratosphere, so we are super excited about that. We've got some amazing partners running some incredible workshops and so many great things happening, not to mention the awesome giveaways that are happening. So without further ado, I might throw to the 2, I think Kendall's got 2 questions. The first one is, can we have that notebook? Absolutely. I will email it to you if you want to contact me, BeSmartAU on Instagram, or rwoolno@smarttech.com, or we will upload it with this YouTube. And the second question was, what is the hardest thing about embedding the digital curriculum into teaching and learning? Look, I think it's twofold. I think the first thing is understanding the language of the digital curriculum. Really unpacking the digital curriculum is important, and fully understanding and being aware of what that means for your year level. In prep or kindergarten or reception or foundation, whatever you call it in your state, you only really need to focus on a few. So my suggestion would be to pick a few, and some of the ones that are the easiest for preps are capturing data, sorting data, editing data, storing data. And if you are using Google Classroom or you are using Seesaw with your preps, you are also sharing data and being safe online. And you can also talk to them about using their devices safely online. Don't forget, using devices safely is not just keeping themselves safe online, but also physical safety. So how long are they on the device for their eyes? What is their posture like when they're using it? Are they moving around the classroom safely with their devices? So all of these can be embedded into your teaching and learning. It doesn't have to be taught in a silo, and that is the most important thing, is actually pushing or using the digital curriculum as a foundation for all of your teaching and learning, not just for a lesson on a Thursday afternoon. It is really important to embed the language and also the skill set into your teaching and learning. And using the smart learning software and the smart board really assisted our teachers because it took away all of those barriers, and it really allowed us easily to implement all of those amazing lessons and experiences that you saw today. I really thank you. I know I have gone 5 minutes over time. I do apologize. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, I can see the question is blinking here. I'll just double check. I don't want to miss any questions that have come through. Maybe it was just a chat. It is a chat. Can we have this notebook? There it is. Yep. What's the hardest thing about? Oh, okay. I've already answered them. Thanks, Crystal, for popping them in the chat. I really appreciate that. All right. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed it and got a little bit out of it. If you would like this notebook, please email me. This will also be uploaded onto our training.smarttech.com. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.